Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to be breaking down our feature prelim for UFC Vegas 113. In this one, we have Amanda Lemos taking on Gillian Robertson. So this matchup is another short notice edition. It was supposed to be Yasmin Lucindo taking on Gillian Robertson. And when I first heard that it was Lamos stepping in on a short notice, I was kind of surprised. You don't normally see a fighter who's up in the ranks taking on a fight in short notice against someone who's lower in the rankings. Usually someone who is lower in the rankings taking the short notice is fight. Now, that being said, I had a feeling we'd actually see this type of matchup relatively soon. I thought whoever win between Lucindo and Robinson was probably going to fight someone in the top five. Lamos specifically because Lamos is currently on a more or less downward slope. As she's trading wins and losses, but none of her wins of recent have come via the top five of strawweight. Meanwhile, you look at Robinson, who is on a tear right now. 4 straight wins since she's moved down from flyweight to strawweight. Those being to Poliana Viana, Michelle Waterson Gomez, Luana Pinheiro, and then most recently beat Marina Rodriguez into retirement. Now, granted, her only loss in this weight class is to Tabitha Ritchie. But besides that, like I said, it's been pretty good for Gillian Robertson, who at the time was sort of, what's what I'm looking for here? I guess teetering just between just a fun journeywoman, as during her time at flyweight, she was a bit inconsistent, and as she would beat fighters like where is it? Pusela Cachoeira, or looking up on there we go. Or like Poliana Ohio. Sorry about that. But then losing to fighters like Miranda Maverick, like J.D. Aldridge, and whatnot. So when she moved down to flyweight, back in 2013, it did seem like the right move. Or I'm sorry, when she moved down to strawweight 8 in 2023 against Piero Rodriguez, it was I think a smart decision. And like I said, it's breed very good success. As I said, Robinson's on tear, and this is the right matchup for her. I figure she earned this fight. Looking at Lamos, as I've said, she has been trading wins and losses since her loss to Wei Li for the belt. But, she has a win over the current champion, Mackenzie Dern, lost to Verna Jandiroba, beat Yasmin Lucindo this March in a terribly boring fight, but beat her in a way I did not see coming, where she used her wrestling. And most recently lost to Suarez in September in another boring fight. So, for this matchup, you have another kind of contrast of styles. With Lamos, she is, at best put, a bully. She is probably the hardest hitter in the weight class right now that Wei Li is not in the weight class currently. I would say, I'd say Lamos is the hardest hitter. Very raw, explosive striking. Now, against Robinson, who's got good, fluid, persistent grappling, it is the kind of pairing where both fighters operate at a high level, but through completely opposite approaches is to winning. Because Lamos is going to bring the power, the speed, and danger, and the ability to end this fight with a single blow. Meanwhile, Robinson brings more patience, technique, and a grappling system that improves as minutes pass. When you combine those styles, the fight becomes a question of who can establish their domain first. Domain expansion. The striker who punishes mistakes almost instantly, or the grappler who just chips away until opportunities open by force of inevitability. I mean, you also look at Robinson's record, right? She has, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure she has the most finishes of any female fighter on the UFC roster. I mean, in her whole record of 16-8, 12 of those are by finish, 9 of which are by submission. She's only seen the scorecards 4 times. So this should be a pretty fun fight, all things considered, and pretty good feature prelim, I'm hoping. So starting with Amanda Lemos, she fights with a level of fast twitch athleticism few in her division can match. She throws with real power, and she doesn't hide it behind volume. She hides it behind precision. Her striking is compact and tight, especially her counters. Hers, as Lemos, is incredibly dangerous when opponents enter into range without fully committing, because she doesn't need to wind up to generate force. Just her hooks, straights, uppercut, they all just carry fight-ending power. Now, that hasn't bared fruit as of recent because, she is pretty long in the tooth. She is 38 years old, and she will be 39 in about half a year. So you do see the gradual decline with age. That is something to keep in mind in this matchup. Now, her kicking game is powerful as well, especially early in fights when she's fresh. She uses calf kicks, body kicks, and sharp front kicks to set rhythm and force movement from opponents. And when she leads exchanges, she does so explosively, often shifting into combination that carries forward her into just her power. But now her strength isn't limited to striking. Her physical strength does translate into the clinch and offensive grappling at times. When she can generate bursts of control or threaten with chokes, especially that guillotine which she got on Michelle Waterson. However, her grappling effectiveness is tied closely to her gas tank. Lemos is at her best in early stages where the fight is decided in quick, decisive moments. And as the fight stretches and as the intensity lowers to a more steady pace, she does become less comfortable. Well, Lemos is a fighter who fights clean, who basically fights clean, space-oriented, and controlled by speed, precision, and power. And when the fight is like that, she's excelled. When those lines blur and when the fight becomes, more grappling heavy, that has been her problem as of recent with Suarez, Jan Dudoba, and Whaley. They all out-wrestled and out-grappled Lemos. Never really got her striking going. Where you see in her wins, granted, the Yasmin Lucindo win is a bit of an anomaly because she out-wrestled Lucindo, though also used her strength in that fight very well. In the Dern one, she just simply had the bigger moments of offense and hurt Dern repeatedly in that fight. But you look at some of these other ones, right? Marina Rodriguez, she bulldozed in round 3. Michelle Waterson, she caught in the gilly. The Angela Hill fight was close, but I feel like she did earn the win over Hill, just simply having the better moments and power. And then, against like Montserrat Ruiz, fucking destroyed her with basically one punch. Yeah, very, very dangerous fight. She's still dangerous. She still carries that power, but like I said, I think it's faded with age, and that might be an issue for her. Now, looking at Gillian Robertson, her style is built around one mission: take the fight into grappling exchanges and let her technique take over. She's one of the most seasoned submission artists in the division. I actually hold her in high regard in terms of the grappling. In similar levels, I think, I might be off bases here, and apologies. I hold her in almost similar level to Dern, though Dern has more accolades, and similar level, I think, to maybe Suarez in terms of their jiu-jitsu. Wrestling, I still think it's Suarez, but if we're talking about just the grappling techniques and, just seasoned and submission artists, Robinson is one of the best in the division. And to be honest with you, I was actually going to pick her against Yasmin Lucindo, as I thought she was going to be the better wrestler and grappler in that one. And her approach is rooted more so off her patient, more methodical approach, and it's not really rushed. Robinson doesn't need the fight to look dominant in the first minute. She just needs it to look predictable 20 exchanges later. Now, something that's plagued Robinson in her early career, same thing you'd see with a lot of jiu-jitsu specialists who transition to MMA, it's her wrestling. Not the most explosive athlete, but her wrestling hasn't greatly improved thanks to her persistence. And Robinson changes her entries together. She uses the cage intelligently, and once she gets to the hip, she rarely stops at the first attempt. And as I said, not the strongest athlete, but her strengths more so rely on her ability to make the fight long and suffocating. She's willing to embrace the grind if it means taking her opponents down, whether through clinch trips, reactive singles, or body locks against the fence, and steadily funnels the fight to her strength. Now, on the mat, she's dangerous everywhere. I mean, you look at the Waterson fight where she may have not gotten the win, but the moment she took her down, it stayed down, and she beat the shit out of Waterson. And her top control is very measured but effective, and her ability to transition from positions, whether it be half guard, mount, or back control, comes from repetition and comfort. I mean, she submitted Rose Namajunas in submission grappling, and Rose is a really good grappler herself. And so Robertson is particularly lethal when she creates scrambles. She excels in chaos on the ground, uh, in a way that Lemos excels in chaos on the feet. And her submissions are rushed. They are very layered. They're very good at coming from positional fatigue, whether her opponents like give up her back or something. And while Robinson's striking has improved, it is still a means to an end. Cover distance, close the gap, and use her real threat, which is get to the clinch and then go for her grappling. Now, when these two meet in the middle, the battle becomes an initiative. Lemos wants clean, crisp combinations when she gets to dictate the look of the engage. Sharp striking, quick bursts of power, in decisive moments in open space. Robinson wants entanglement, clinch, grapple, mat scrambles, and long exchanges where pace matters much more than power and explosiveness. So I think the early moments will favor Lemos. She'll be the faster starter, the sharper one, and the one who carries more immediate danger. And any entry that isn't fully committed from Robertson risks running into the wood chipper. But as soon as Robinson begins creating contact, whether a clinch, the tie up, a half shot into that change into her wrestling, or even a scramble off a caught kick, the dynamic shifts and the margin tightens for Lucindo and the pathways widen for Robinson. So I think this matchup becomes a question of patience, whether Robinson can weather those early explosive shots in the pocket long enough to bring the fight into her terrain, and whether Lemos can maintain the sharpness of her striking while the fight gradually could become more grapple heavy and physically draining. So for my official prediction, I'm going to go with Gillian Robertson. I simply think that her wrestling and grappling are going to be too much for Lemos to handle. If this was Lemos, who even at 33, I think would have a better shot of winning. But I think Robinson's gas tank has failed her in the past. I think fighters like Verna Janudova, who has a very similar style to Robinson, kind of showed the path to victory in matchups like these, where as long as Robinson is persistent and her wrestling does not need to be the best, but use clever trips and sweeps, I think she's able to get it to the ground. And once it's there, while Lemos has pretty good grappling in her own right, she has some good submissions. It mostly relies on her explosiveness and strength, and I just don't think that's going to cut it when Robinson is on top. So my official prediction, I'm going to go with Gillian Robertson, and I'm going to pick her via submission in this fight. I just think she can catch the submission. I think if Lemos explodes too quickly and or too predictably, I think Robinson's going to catch her in like a rear naked choke, an arm bar, something akin to that. So once again, my official prediction, I'm going to go with Gillian Robertson. I'm going to pick her via submission in this fight. But with that being said, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. If you liked the video, like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below on who you think's going to win. But until then, stay calm, stay respectful, and enjoy the violence. I'll see you all next time.